Welcome to this video, where we're going to be continuing to speak about the three sons of Noah, race and appearance, and whatever your perspective or beliefs are coming into this video, I hope you will give it a fair chance. Let's get into this video. We did say that this comment may need its own video to really unpack this. Let's read it again. I'm going to read it my way so it's easier for me to read. And also the Aryans, are they of Ham or Japheth? If they are of Ham, the theory of Indo-European peoples is false. Now I was a bit more cautious and I said that something may be false. I didn't want to make a broad claim, but let's be fair to the viewer, it's just a question or an idea. He's not saying that it's definitely true. But let's try a recap so that we can see, do we understand the premise? This is a map we used for the Indo-European language family. It was the Greek civilization that brought us to this map. When we started to try to introduce the Aryans, it took us to the Indic world or the Vedic world. So we do have an Aryan component to this Indo-European language family, with the, if you want to say, the Iranic and also the Indic. But the theory is, does the Indo-European language family stem back to a proto-Indo-European language? So we could say like an original Indo-European language. And would it be, well, it's saying here that the Aryans would be the original speakers, so that this language family is stemming back to the Aryans. So that's the theory. And if we go to the page on the Indo-European language family, some interesting facts here. It says that in total 46% of the world's population, 3.2 billion people, speak an Indo-European language as a first language, by far the highest of any language family. So it is a very large language family. And they give us a very interesting diagram here to look at. So we can almost imagine this like a family tree. So it's like a tree diagram. So it's just a theory that these Indo-European languages are branching back, and we could trace the oldest branch. And it says that the oldest branch is the Anatolian, and that broke off from a Proto-Indo-European language. But there's no language here because it's a theory. So according to this, we don't know what this would be. But if we go to the Anatolian language family, this is where it gets interesting. The best known Anatolian language is the Hittite, which is considered the earliest attested Indo-European language. So they're saying that the Hittite could be the earliest language in this Indo-European language family. Now, if we go to the Bible, we learn that Heth was the progenitor of the Hittites, and Heth a son of Canaan, and Canaan a son of Ham. So we could jump the gun and go straight back to our comments and say that we found a connection between the Hamites and the Aryans, because the Hittites are of Ham, according to the Bible. And we did do a few videos on the Hittites in our Exploring the Celtic World, and we learned quite a bit. And we did see these connections with the Hittites to the Vedic world. There was that source we used were the Hittites Hindus. And we also learned about the Hittites invoking the Vedic deities. And some sources might say Aryan deities. So we could describe the Hittites as an Aryan people or an Aryan nation. And what they're saying is that Hittite could be the oldest Indo-European language. Now, the reason why I say we can't jump the gun is because there's so much confusion with the Hittites. Let's try to explain some of this confusion. How do we know what we're looking at when we hear the term Hittites? We see we have the original Haitians, so the indigenous people of the land. Then we have Indo-European conquerors, but who were they? And then a Canaanite group. And how does this fit in with the biblical Hittites? And then we also have biblical scholars bringing Kittim, son of Juvan, son of Japheth, into the equation. So there's no sure footing. So if we go back to our comments, we can't really use the Hittites to make any claims because of all that uncertainty. But it's interesting to think about this Indo-European theory. If we go back to our diagram, the theory that the Indo-European languages could be stemming back to a Proto-Indo-European language, which could have been spoken by the Aryans. And if we can describe the Hittites as a Aryan nation or an Aryan people, they're saying that the Hittites, could have been the oldest Anatolian language, so the earliest attested Indo-European language. So then it does seem to be fair to say that this could be stemming back to the Aryans if the Hittites are part of the oldest branch. So that's interesting because, again, we come back to this idea, what is actually false? So let's keep going further and we'll see what else we can uncover in this video. If we can say that the Hittites were an Aryan people or an Aryan nation, and we see the Bible is connecting the Hittites to Canaan, son of Ham, but we can't really use this to work with the comment because of all that uncertainty. But what about if we work with this premise that we do have a connection now with the Hamites and the Aryans? Does that mean that there are Aryan nations coming from Canaan? So if we explore some of these other sons, could that lend support to the connection with the Hittites? So it's a way of supporting that. So I'd like to speak to you and go through, explore with you Hori and the Horites. It's very interesting with the Horites that it could actually be the book of Jasher that gives us the genealogy, and I don't know if there's any other way of finding this out other than using the book of Jasher. It speaks about Sair, the son of Hur, or Hor, the son of Hivi. So according to the book of Jasher, the Horites are of Hivi, the Hivites. So the Hivites are brother nation to the Hittites. So we're going to be looking at the Horites, which according to the book of Jasher are coming from the Hivites. So that's interesting. Okay, we're going to follow the etymology for the Horites. Now we do have one of the main ideas as caveman or cave dweller, which connects to the word troglodyte. But there are other ideas which are going to be important or interesting for our study here. We have nobleman or noble. And let's just go to a few other pages to find out some more things about the Horites with the etymology. So the Horites, or the Harri, or the Kari, and it says here that they may have been called Horites because they made themselves independent or free. So being cognate with free for Hori. Now this should start to be sounding interesting if you've been following our videos with our introducing of the Aryans. Let's just read a few other things. This one was interesting because it says it more probably, however, denotes the white race. So we're going to come back to that. And another page also saying noble for the Horites. Let's just recap for those maybe that are new to this or just come across this video with the etymology for the Arya or the Aryans. We see the free man, and we also see chief or noble. So it's interesting that some of these potential etymologies for Hori or the Horites being free, or they made themselves free, but then also noble, is it connecting them to the Aryans? So could actually, what we're going to be asking is, so Hori the Horite, is he actually carrying Aryan in his name? So I thought, if there's truth to this, then there really should be other people also saying this. So I just tried to see what I could find, and I came across this page, which is speaking about the ruling caste. So now we get the idea of, we're getting this word caste, which we did see, or we said we might expect to see this with the Aryans. So a ruling caste in Mitanni, designated as Harri. And it speaks about this being connected to the Harri, or the Aryan. And we did speak about that treaty with the Hittites and the Mitanni invoking Vedic deities. So this kingdom of Mitanni could also be described as an Aryan nation, or there was some sort of Aryan element. And this is going to be speaking about the Hurrians. It says the Hurrians were Aryans. Now the Hurrians are on the historical record, but some scholars connect the Hurrians with the Horites because of this similarity of this name. So the Huri or the Harri and the Horites. So this is very interesting how the etymology for Hori, the Horites, could connect them to the Aryans. But then what about the actual name itself? If we think about the Horites being connected to the Hurrians, when we say Hurrian, so the Hurrians, are we actually saying the Aryans without really knowing it? I'm not saying that's true, I'm just asking. But it's very interesting now because we have another descendant of Canaan, which seems to have a connection potentially to the Aryans. So now it wouldn't just be the Hittites, standing on its own. Are the Aryan nations coming from Canaan? Let's read this comment from Bethlehem Heat. I'm going to read it as it's written, and it's coming from our video, The African Origin of the Grecian Civilization, the video that started this study. Greetings, bro. Just wanted to share the Zondervan Bible Dictionary for Ham, or Cam. Ham, one of the 3 sons of Noah to survive the Great Flood, and the progenitor of the dark races. Not the Negroes, but the Libyans, Put, the Egyptians, Mizraim, the Ethiopians, Cush, and the Canaanites. I want to focus on the part that says Ham as the progenitor of the dark races. Now we've already read something that could be saying something contrary to this. If you remember, it said that the Horites, so of Canaan, being connected to the white race. I'd like to go to another source, which is the Hittites, the story of a forgotten empire. It describes the appearance of the Hittites and the Amorites. So the Amorites also in this family of Canaan. Now, sometimes we have to read it as it's written, even if the language could be described as offensive or derogatory. It describes the Hittites as having Mongoloid features, so having a Mongoloid appearance for the Hittites, and then it goes on to describe the Amorites, saying that they were a tall and handsome people. They are depicted with white skins, blue eyes, and reddish hair, all the characteristics, in fact, of the white race. So now we're having the Amorites and the Horites being described as being of the white race, and the Hittites having Mongoloid features or having a Mongoloid appearance. So that's why it's confusing with the Hittites because Mongoloid is not associated with Indo-European. So that's that conflict with, how do we interpret the Hittites? Is this going to be connected with the biblical Hittites? Then who would be the Indo-European Hittites? So that gets a bit confusing. But let's just focus on this appearance for the Hamites and go back to the comment. So now it says that Ham is the progenitor of the dark races. But what we could be learning is that there may be a varied appearance with the Hamites, not just the dark races. So it's not to say that this is not true, because the Ethiopians come from Ham, but it doesn't seem to be the full story or the complete picture for Ham. And if you haven't got the complete truth, then you could say that there's room for ignorance. You may be ignorant, and then that can lead to prejudice. And that's what we were speaking with this source about: prejudice, about errors being made popular, which is also something that we could speak about for Ham and Genesis 9. And maybe we're learning a bit more why this just suggesting or asking about the African origin of the Grecian civilization was described here as being a sort of heresy. Because if we think about this, this has become like an established truth, that Ham is the progenitor of the dark races. And it's like repeated and repeated and repeated. And for a lot of people, even you could say most people, this is going to be the primary thought when you think about Ham. This is going to be what you think. So that's why it's going to be offensive, or it's going to be seen as like a heresy to speak about an African origin, because of what you think when you hear that, the implications of it, and the fact that Africa has been strongly connected with Ham and the Hamites. When you hear this theory of the African origin of the Grecian civilization, depending on your upbringing, on what you've learned, your perspective, it's going to make you think something. And because of the fact that it's become an established truth, it could be offensive to certain people. And the Aryans which we're speaking about, it's going to be offensive, because if we go back to that page on the Aryans, we learned how they're being connected to the Caucasian race as being a sub-race of the Caucasian race, so the European or the white race. And we said that there seems to be an implied connection with Japheth, because the other two brothers are mentioned, Shem and Ham. So that implies Japheth. And that's what we were speaking about, and also now what we're speaking about in this video. So I'll try just sum that up one more time. Hopefully you can see what I'm trying to say, that for the Aryans, they're not going to want to be connected or associated with Ham, because of what's become like an established truth, that Ham is only the progenitor of the dark races. And this is why when you put forward things that are false, and you have these errors that are popularized, and even prejudice, you start to get caught in your own lies and your own deceptions, because now the Aryans don't want to be associated with Ham because of what it implies. But then you could be being deceptive about your true origins, because we're learning now there could be Aryans that do come from Ham, but we still have to try explore further and see, can we find something to strengthen the claim. And we're going to try to do that by thinking more about the Indo-European languages. This is going to be a little bit of an aside from the video, but not unrelated. Thinking about the Hamites. Why does nobody want to be a Hamite? Now, this is just a figure of speech, but it was something that one of our viewers was also saying the other day in a similar way. So I think we should just say something about the Hamites, and I would like to read from the book of Amos, chapter 9. It says, "Are you not like the people of Ethiopia to me, O children of Israel? Says the Lord. Did I not bring up Israel from the land of Egypt, the Philistines from Caphtor, and the Syrians from Kir?" So the people of Ethiopia, or the people of Cush, and this is an important message going to the Israelites at this time. So I think we can see that the Ethiopians are also important to God. Otherwise, it wouldn't say this in this verse. And we also have stories in the Bible of, you could say, Ethiopian heroes, with Ebed-Melech saving Jeremiah. So it says here, later Jeremiah related God's message to him, saying that he, Ebed-Melech, would not fall by the sword during the fall of Jerusalem to the Babylonians, because he had put his trust in God. Just wanted to read a few verses that we must be fair and thoughtful with the way we speak and the way we cover this history and this study, that we should be careful the way we speak about Ham, because clearly, according to this book of Amos, we can see that the Ethiopians are being compared to the Israelites in terms of what God did for the Israelites, but also for the Ethiopians. When we were speaking about the origin of the Grecian civilization and using this Indo-European map for the language family, we made a comment that there's no arrows coming to Africa or out of Africa. So what does that say for the African origin theory, which started this study? And we know language is important for civilization. Now, to go further with that, we're going to go back to this source, the Hittites, the story of a forgotten empire. It's very interesting with the connections here with the Libyans and also the Celts. So it says, Mr. Petrie points out their resemblance to the Dardanians, so the Trojans of Asia Minor, who form an intermediate link between the white-skinned tribes of the Greek seas and the fair-complexioned Libyans of North Africa. Now, this is going to be connections we can make by association, just with appearance. So we can make a connection with the Amorites, with the fair-complexioned Libyans, but then it also goes on to speak about the Kabiles, so a tribe of North Africa, with a similar appearance to populations of the British Isles, like the fair Celts. So now we're going to be going back to our map and thinking about the Celtic. So not speaking about the Greek, but thinking about the Celtic, which is a part of this Indo-European family. We did do a video in our playlist Exploring the Celtic World, the Celtic Amazigh Berber connection. And it's interesting with the Amazigh, if we just think about the Amazigh before we get to the Celtic language discussion, that the Berbers want to be known or called by this name Amazigh. And according to Leo Africanus, it could mean free man, but that's been disputed. And it also says here that it could be cognate with the Tuareg word noble. So very interesting, again, we're getting noble, free man with the Amazigh. And according to their own traditions, they say they descend from Canaan, son of Ham. and there's also connections with the Philistines. So we're getting a connection again to Canaan with these etymologies which seem to be connected with the Aryans. So this would be important to think about for what we're going to, if you want to say suggest or ask, that would some of these Berber tribes see themselves as Aryans? And then we would have an Aryan presence in North Africa, which could be important for what we're going to discuss, because I came across a very interesting source. So speaking about the Celtic languages and the connection to North Africa, and I think it's important to make this point that this is coming to us from experts. So I'll see if I can find where it says that. So it's a minority. So they are in minority, but they are experts in their field. Very interesting. Now this is speaking about seeking the origins. Not sure how you pronounce this word, I'll do my best. Where did the periphrastic way of speaking come from? Now, please don't ask me to try explain this. We're just going to read this example so we kind of get the idea. So we have this way of phrasing this. He killed the man. And then I think the periphrastic way is to say, did he killing of man? So very different. And then trying to trace this, like the origins. And it says, he noted that the ancient Semitic languages, such as Classical Arabic or Ancient Akkadian in Mesopotamia, did not have periphrasis, but that the Kushite languages of Ethiopia, Somalia, and Sudan did. So very interesting. And we'll read this paragraph as well. So a remarkable picture built up of the spreading of periphrastic forms from one language to another through geographical contact. The spread progresses from the Kushite languages to the North African ones. It then goes from the North African languages to the Basques and to the insular Celtic languages. So I can't say that I really understand fully the technicalities here, but it's what's coming out to us that we can take as lay people. So we said with this Indo-European language family, there's no arrows being connected with Africa. And we said in that video, can we really trust or rely on this map? And according to these minority experts, we're seeing some sort of a connection with the Celtic to North Africa, and then trying to trace the origins going towards Ethiopia and the Sudan. So I just wanted to share that could be very interesting, and to also think about this, if you want to say like an equation where we have the Berbers and referring to themselves as the Amazigh. Could we have Aryans in North Africa? It becomes like an important part of the equation with the Indo-European theory that it connects back to the Aryans. So what I'd like to do is start to think about all the information that we've brought forward in this video and try to bring it together and see what conclusions we can take and analyze further. Let's come back to this comment and see, have we discovered what is false about this? We are uncovering that there could be Aryans that come from Ham. And if we go to the page on the Aryan race or Wikipedia, we remember how there's like an implied connection to Japheth. By mentioning the other two brothers, Japheth is implied, but it says a subrace of the Caucasian race. So the Aryans not wanting to be associated with the Hamites. But is that their origin? So it's deceptive, because you could say that this is not false, because they're not connecting themselves to Japheth, they're connecting themselves to a Caucasian race or a sub-race of the Caucasian race. So it's not saying Japheth, but it's implied. You think Japheth because that's the other brother that's not mentioned. And that becomes false because it's not saying the truth. And then what are the implications of that for our learning, for what's presented to us? For example, this map. What can we trust? Is it reliable? Because if there are connections to Africa with these languages, is that going to be ignored, even ridiculed, to push it away? So with these scholars trying to research the African origin of the Grecian civilization, making it seem like a heresy, so people aren't going to want to hear or get put off. And is that because of the prejudice and the fact that you want to maintain a perspective, maintain a picture of this Indo-European language family, how it's going to be strongly connected with the world of Japheth, which we learned is the way traditional biblical scholarship interprets the sons of Japheth being strongly connected with Europe. So to have this map strongly connected with Europe, which again connects to Japheth for this Indo-European language family, but that's why it's a very good question and idea or thought. What if the Aryans are actually coming from Ham? And we know how Ham has been strongly connected with Africa for so long. But then, if you start to have an accepted truth or an established truth, because it just gets repeated and repeated, and that's all we hear, that Ham is the progenitor of the dark races, then that becomes your primary thought. You think Africa, you think Ham, and you're thinking about Ham being the progenitor of the dark races, then you haven't got the complete truth. And if you haven't got the complete truth, then there's going to be ignorance, and you can also then lead to prejudice. And maybe it's starting to make sense why we don't have any arrows coming to Africa or out of Africa, because if you do put arrows to Africa, then that's going to imply things, or it's going to suggest things, and people are going to be offended or upset because, especially with the Aryans, they don't want to be associated with Ham and with Africa because of the implications, because of so many, you could say, lies or errors and prejudice. And then you start to get trapped in your own web of deceit, where it's not about truth and trying to get to try to study the information. What is the origin of the Indo-European languages? Is there really a quest for truth to follow the information, or is it more about trying to maintain an image or perspective? And then when you do have experts who are finding information connecting the Celtic to North Africa and even going towards Ethiopia, they're going to be in the minority, and most people are not ever going to really hear about that. So let me know what you think. Is that starting to make sense with what was put forward here in this comments? And are we starting to get an understanding of what could be false? And then what does that say about our history and our past? And I still would like to try come back to what I said. Are we missing something important if we only focus on race and appearance? So I still would like to do a video speaking about that. But I also did make that point that I don't want to make it seem that having this discussion is not important and that we shouldn't, discuss these things either. My final thought, which could be more of a question to try stimulate thought or debate in the comment section. Could we maybe make a mistake if we think we have to choose between Ham or Japheth in terms of the Aryans? Are the Aryans of Ham or Japheth? What about all three brothers? Could the Aryans come from Shem, Ham, or Japheth? So that's just for thought and discussion. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you also to the viewers for sharing the comments. They do help, because you might be thinking something that somebody else is not thinking, and it can help to further the study and our quest for the truth. The next video I can't say for certain. We'll see what the reaction is to this video, if we get good comments. And the video which I said I would like to do is not going to be something surprising to the viewers that have been watching for quite a while. So if you're wondering what am I talking about with this idea of what we could be missing, don't worry. If you've been following the channel for a while, it won't be something that you're not aware of. Until next time, take care, and we'll see you soon.